crypto may be on the brink of another black swan event, similar to how we saw the markets react to the COVID-19 announcement back in 2020 and the more recent Luna, 3AC, FTX, and Celsius failures. But the coming black swan event I'm preparing for is shaping up to be significantly worse than all of these combined. We aren't just talking about a crypto disaster here, rather a series of macroeconomic events leading to a crash far more severe than in 2008's GFC. Now, the goal of this video is to open your eyes to the indicators that are signaling a looming collapse of the American economy, jeopardizing traditional markets, crypto, and of course, your everyday way of life. For those wondering, no, I'm not a macro guy, but I do see the unequivocal need for crypto bros to always observe the macro state of the world to predict what will happen within the industry. Now, I'm definitely not here to educate you like others can on this topic, but I'm here to paint the point of reason for some of you that up until this point may have been oblivious or too stubborn to consider the fact that the United States is teetering on another serious recession or even depression. It's important to recognize this as it's going to impact you as a crypto investor way more than anyone else, since our industry is by far the most speculative and is where people are likely to sell their positions first. You can completely forget the 2025 bull market if what I show you today pans out anytime soon. The primary focus today is going to be on the United States, as of course the dollar currently backs many other fiat currencies, and a collapse of the US economy would send shockwaves throughout the world, which I think is a pretty universal consensus. Now, for the reasons I'm about to mention, I've retained a sizable sum of fiat to inject into the market at a moment's notice, irrespective of a potential bull market or not. And while I don't encourage you to do the same, as of course I'm not a financial advisor, you should all consider every single option. In the last 5 months of 2023, we've seen 3 American banks fail: Signature, Silicon Valley, and recently First Republic, totaling $532 billion in assets under management. Get this, exceeding the combined total from all the banks in the 2008 GFC. Just think about that for a second. Now, this doesn't include the investment banks that failed like Lehman Brothers, although this is some very concerning news considering, well, we're only 5 months into 2023. As a matter of fact, small US banks are showing huge cracks, with many on the brink of failing, which apparently is only going to be getting worse.
The banking system is sound and resilient and strong.
Liz, I've heard so many times since the first of Silicon Valley Bank, the banking system is fine, the banking system is stable. And then when we heard on Monday, oh, First Republic has been bought by JP Morgan, then look what happened yesterday. I mean, you had some of the banks, PacWest down 25%, Western Alliance down 20%, the KBW index down 7, 8, 9%. Liz, it's not over by a long shot.
If you ask me, it's a convenient timing because America's CBDC so-called solution will be implemented this July. And I don't think anyone watching this video needs an explanation as to why that is bad.
The level of admiration I actually have for China, because their basic dictatorship is allowing them to actually turn their economy around on a dime.
We have to have a strategic mood. We have to construct the world of tomorrow. It's a systemic transformation of the world. So we have to define how the world should look like, which we want to come out of this transformation period.
Moral of the story, I don't believe this is happening by accident, which is why I'm expecting a hell of a lot more bank failures and thereon more downside as the system is systematically transitioned into full central bank control. Just be very aware. But for those of you still unbothered or masking your worries with the tinfoil hat guys, let's not forget about the United States' monumental $32 trillion national debt that just won't stop growing.
The president will have to make some decisions about what to do with the resources that we do have. And there are a variety of different options, but there are no good options. Every option is a bad option. And I really don't want to get into discussing them and ranking them because, as every Treasury Secretary has known, the only option that really leaves our economy in good shape is, and our financial system, is raising the debt ceiling.
As Janet Yellen mentions here, the US is in a position where there are no good maneuvers left. They'll pretty much essentially have to continue to raise the debt ceiling because they can't afford to default on their obligations, as this will create a shitstorm as the government won't be able to pay contractors, officials, social security checks, or interest on bonds, which, by the way, has never happened before. Suffice to say, they'll likely raise the debt ceiling, and soon too, because the US Treasury is running out of cash fast, only remaining afloat from the funds accrued from tax season. Apparently there's about another month or so left of funds, so you'll soon see a decision met. Either way, it's highly unlikely the United States will cut spending costs, meaning one day or another, there's going to be a catastrophic default. We just don't know when, so you really need to be warned and prepared.
Yellen warns if the U.S. defaults, it could harm families, the economy, and national security interest.
And President Biden has called the Big Four congressional leaders to the White House on May 9th. We're told that the president will stress that Congress must take action to avoid a default without any conditions and address government spending separately.
And here's another interesting fact to take into consideration. The housing bubble is far greater in size right now than what it was in 2008, meaning the home price to median household income is through the roof. But wait, there is definitely more. Unemployment rates are at near record lows, coming in at about 3.5%, which actually sounds like a really good thing, right? And obviously, the more people being employed is better than less people being employed, I do agree. However, charts don't lie, and this chart on the unemployment rate and long-term unemployment rate dating back as far as 1948 indicates that a recession, highlighted by the shaded columns, is always succeeded by low employment rates. Is this concerning? Well, I definitely would say so. But if you're, for some reason, still not wide awake, let me mention something else. Just like the facade of low employment rates seemingly being fantastic, at least with respect to what comes after, the nominal wages versus real wages is also quite concerning. As the chart you're looking at right now shows, nominal wages, which by the way is the income you see on your paycheck, have been following the price of goods and services. However, real wages, which is actually your income in terms of your purchasing power, is declining, and very rapidly too. Worst of all, 44% of Americans are expected to apply for a buy now, pay later loan within the next 6 months, kind of proving my point here. And I know what some of you might be thinking, oh, well, it must be for a large purchase like a computer or a lounge set, right? Well, apparently it's not. The sobering truth is that 21% of people need it for groceries. Just let that sink in. Remember, this is with the seemingly amazing 3.5% unemployment rate and increase in wages. Now, just imagine what will happen in the midst of a recession, or worse, of course, a depression. But, of course, it doesn't end there. You may have noticed the stock market is also trending upwards, an exciting feeling for many people, I'm sure, although the Black Swan capitalist sums this up very nicely.
People keep asking me, why is the stock market going up? First of all, we need to clarify that the global financial system is still in bear market territory. All the indicators are suggesting that this whole thing is supposed to implode on itself. But we're in a situation where every time we get close to a disaster like Silicon Valley Bank and Credit Suisse, central banks are stepping in. We already know what they're going to do. They're going to print more money. They pumped $400 billion into the markets. 3 weeks later, all the stocks are going up. So what happened here? We're in a situation where every time we get close to this financial crisis, central banks step in, they pump liquidity into the market, they pump liquidity into an illiquid and insolvent global financial system. That's what they're really doing. And by doing this, they're able to create the illusion of financial stability because they can buy up the bonds, they can buy up stocks, they can buy up debt, and that's why everything looks good, despite the fact that we're undergoing a global financial reset. I think they're doing this to not create panic. Now, stocks may go up, but you need to be mindful of the situation that we're in.
Understand that things right now aren't as what they seem, and it's easy to let your FOMO take over when we see the markets pumping and the seemingly amazing stats at face value. But there is a lot more happening here than meets the eye. You know, it is very easy to feel the warm, sunny days in crypto when it's all green and you're making money, but you really do need to be careful not to overexpose yourself. Now, a lot of what I've mentioned today is writing on the walls, except in my opinion, people just aren't awake. I don't want to forget that the dollar will soon be competing with a new currency created by the BRICS countries, that of course being Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. This new currency will shake the strength of the US dollar, as I would imagine many countries will decide to use it for trading and reserves. And besides all that, we've actually already seen a major French company charge the export of liquefied gas to China in yuan rather than the typical USD. So the really important thing that I wanted to get across is that I'm not an expert in the macro markets. I myself am still learning quite a lot and rely on honest experts that do this as their full-time job to gain an opinion on various subjects, just as you watch my videos for in-depth cryptocurrency reviews. Now, the information I've provided you today was actually gathered by simply watching their YouTube videos, tying everything together, doing a little of my own research to validate what they were saying, and then forming an opinion. Basically, my whole MO here is that you can do this too, and it's not hard. I actually suggest subscribing to the YouTubers on your screen now and observing what they say on a daily basis. Ideally, you really should follow them on Twitter as well, because that'll be the most up-to-date you possibly can be. If you're time poor like me and want to ensure you're up to speed with all of these things, this is exactly how I have managed to stay ahead. Remember, prepare for the worst and stay grounded, because ultimately, you're gonna save yourself a hell of a lot of money, time, and stress.